Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. The silver shortage is coming, and I'm going to tell you what it really means, not only in terms of the physical silver shortage that is to come, but also how it relates to price. Let's explore! There's been talk of a silver shortage for quite some time. In fact, when we talk about shorting silver, that's really essentially putting pressure on the commodities markets, especially in terms of the derivatives that are tied to them, to make them pay up, to cash out for the physical. And that's kind of what it is behind the whole meme stock situation that occurred earlier this year. What happened with Wall Street bets and Wall Street silver in terms of shorting these stocks? Well, there's going to be an actual supply shortage of silver, according to commodities analyst Daniel Bresman, and I actually believe it this time, at least of what's to come, based off of what were statistics that I'm going to talk to you a little bit about. But we're also going to look at the nuance of all of this as well. There's a narrative that some have been wondering about since this all began. And he noted that the Silver Institute said there's a supply deficit, and he explains more in this report that he had talked about, this Commerce Bank specialist here, this analyst. The Silver Institute published an interim report of the situation on the global silver market. Apparently, in this recent report, the physical market is set to show a supply deficit of 7 million ounces again this year for the first time since 2015. Note that date. Overall demand for silver is expected to grow by 15% to 1.29 billion ounces, its highest level in 6 years, with all demand components contributing. They're firing on all cylinders for silver demand that's to come. When speaking about real demand for the commodity, he said industrial demand for silver even looks set to increase by 8% to a record high of 524 million ounces. This is being driven by the photovoltaic industry and electrical and electronic applications, which highlights the role silver plays in the green economy. Jewelry demand is also likely to be notably higher this year, up 18%. It's investment demand that the Silver Institute expects to show the biggest growth in demand. That is key here, folks. In other words, it's folks like you and me that are buying more silver. However, it is set to soar by 32% to its 6-year high of 263 million ounces. This is attributed to solid demand for coins and bars in countries like the U.S. and India. And that is notable for sure. Lastly, on the fund situation, silver ETFs are expected to register inflows of 150 million ounces this year, which is less than half of last year's figure. Less than half. However, the Silver Institute's expectation for the year as a whole implies that inflows in the remaining weeks of the year will need to pick up considerably. Though silver supply is set to be expanded by 5%, this will not quite be enough to satisfy demand. So there it is. Silver supply will expand by 5%, but demand will grow more, hence why there will be a physical silver shortage. There was some technical talk in terms of the price, he said. Silver has likewise regained some of the ground it had lost and is priced at $25 per troy ounce again, except for, as of the recording of this video, it is now back just below $25 an ounce. Silver has repeatedly rebounded from the technically important 200-day moving average in recent days. If it manages to exceed this threshold, silver could head towards $26. Our prediction for the end of the year on the back of technical follow-up buying. My prediction is more bullish than that. My prediction is $30 by the end of the year. It becomes less and less likely unless we have a couple of days of gains. Then it becomes more likely. But I did a recent poll, which is sort of a psychoanalysis of my viewers on a live stream when we watch the markets on Sunday nights. And right now, silver is now comfortably below $25, but it is still in the high 24s. About 3/4 of my audience at the time, my live audience, thought it was going to rise to 26 before the week's end. And of course, by the time you watch this video, this is the last day of the trading week. So more likely it's not going to happen. And that is the psychology, if you will, of the markets. Now let's talk a little bit about this, because we mentioned a date earlier in this video, 2015. And 2015 was the last time that we showed a supply deficit. And so this is what we're gonna see is gonna come around to that time. But notice silver prices were very low in 2015, and they're low now. And even though the supply is a deficit, the prices were low during that period. It took a little while for the prices to rise, and it could have been partially due to this deficit, because in 2016 they did rise up a bit, and or 2016. So we very well could see that, but we just may need to be a bit more patient as we go through this. The other thing is the Silver Institute's reports have changed, and some people are very upset with how the Silver Institute is not including scrap, recycled silver in some of its statistics. And so some of that silver will come into play. In fact, there's ways to be able to recycle more efficiently. And so therefore, this does not account for that, which means the deficit may not be as severe as is reported here. And the other thing to note here is that with the increase in green technology and green energy, it may not spike up as quickly as some may expect, even with some of these new governmental policies and some of the new funding that will be coming from government and from some of this legislation that has been proposed. So we'll see what happens there. But the silver, the physical demand for silver, I think is quite intriguing to see and read about here. And I think that's exciting to see new silver stackers come into the fold. But these new silver stackers, I believe, have got to be toughened up. They need to be shown some tough love about silver, because silver is going to fluctuate in price. And by the way, this may not necessarily translate to a higher price anytime soon for multiple different reasons. And because we've seen this in the past. Silver has not responded the way many of us thought it should, given the supply shortages. But we may actually see a physical silver supply, but we've been here before too. In fact, in the last couple of years, the Silver Institute has shown somewhat of a deficit. But this time, it's noteworthy, and especially we see jewelry demand will be noticeably up this year, and that is because, the recovery of the pandemic, or at least a normalization of it, and so people are going back to normal, and a lot of that is probably being driven in India. But also when we see bullion demand grow, and that means that premiums will go up. And there's another issue in terms of price. When physical demand increases for coins and bullion, you are going to see the premiums increase for them as well. And even for not as popular coins, people will tend to go to these less popular bullion coins, depending on which country you're from. Of course, you get something like this, it may be a gem, that you find out it's got a little collector value because it was meant to be 5 CDs and not 100 CDs. I've got a couple of these. I got for bullion price because the guy didn't know what he had at a coin show. And so, and then sometimes you find unexpected sources of silver, like the Garasopa silver. There's a lot of silver found, the shipwreck silver from 1942, I think, sank. And so this is the SS Garasopa. That was from actually 1941 is when it was sunk. 1941 Garasopa silver here. So you get things like this, and that adds a little bit, not a negligent, not a whole lot, but hey, sometimes you have unexpected sources for silver, and you have to take into account some of that stuff that can happen as well. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are on the demand for silver, and how that is going to mean there's going to be a coming silver shortage. And but I'm saying we should not get our hopes up for a spike in price, or the price to go to the moon or any other planet, or even really go out of the atmosphere. But one thing we can be rest assured is that this means that silver will certainly have a lot less room to fall. And I think that is exciting to know that silver's probably not going to tank to the below $20 at least, although it could. I don't keep that out. I don't rule that out. That's for sure these days, because you never know. But one thing's for sure, I'm happy with having some silver in my stack. Now, I don't sell what I get. I mean, some of this silver is fairly old. I hang on to it, and I add a little bit more from time to time. And that's I think that's a good modus operandi for many of us, is to hold on to what we've got. Unless we absolutely have to sell, we shouldn't. Unless you can profit from it. If I could gain a whole bit of profit from this 100 CDs, I might sell it. I don't know. But I'm also a collector too, so take that into account. But nonetheless, there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.